For most of you who are familiar with the old Sigma 18-35, and probably right now you know that Sigma has their new 17-40 f1.8 art lens for APS-C. But again, don't want to talk about that because we are talking about the 28-45. But for many years, I used their old 18-35 T2 high-speed zoom. Now, the first reason why I picked up the 28-45 f1.8 is because I recently sold my 18-35, as I also sold my FX9. So I didn't have a camera that had a super sampled Super 35 sensor. So I needed something to replace that 18-35 focal range, again, Super 35 sensor, but also now have the availability of using it on a full frame sensor. Now, I know many people like to use a 24-70. Some people prefer a 16-35. Kind of just depends on what your flavor is. You know, for me, the 18-35 equivalent on full frame is 27 to about 40, like 42 millimeters. And so again, a full frame 28-45 full frame lens is perfect for my use. Now, the second reason why you want to pick and why I wanted to pick up the 28-45 is for travel shoots. In an instance where, say, you're using 4 or 5 lenses, you have to carry those 4 or 5 lenses. With the 28-45, you can essentially leave home your 24mm, your 35mm, and also your 50mm. Bring the 28-45, and then have maybe a telephoto or a tighter focal length, say like a 75mm prime. So that being said, it'll help to save you from choosing what lenses to bring. You automatically know, hey, I can bring the 28-45. That covers the multitude of ranges that I would need between a 24 and a 50mm lens. And then it's just up to me, say you want to bring like an 85 prime, and then that's all you need. Maybe you want to bring like a 100mm macro lens, and then that's all you need. And the third reason why I chose to buy the 28-45 is it's a great gimbal camera. Many times when I'm operating in gimbal, say especially for action scenes or fight scenes, we're swapping lenses periodically. It could be you're on a 12mm, next thing you're on a 20mm, and then next thing you need a 75mm lens. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking, 20-45, not a huge focal range. Again, it depends on your style of filmmaking. For me, again, like I said, many years of using the 18-35, it gets me in that range between essentially 24mm, and 50mm, which is periodically where I always live when it comes to coverage, whether that be a medium close-up, whether that be a medium shot, could be a close-up shot, right? If you can get really close into your talent, your subject. And rarely do I ever use 85mm, 70-200s, although I do use them. I'm not saying I don't use them, but the vast majority of the focal lengths that I use over the last 8 years have been like between 24 and 50mm, right? So is it 24mm? No, I'm losing about 4mm. Not a huge deal. Is it 50mm? No, I'm losing about 5mm. Not a huge deal, because I get that f1.8 aperture, which helps out a ton. Say, in 2 instances, one where you are shooting in low light, where you just need the extra speed from the lens and the light hitting the sensor. And then number 2, say you're doing like a typical interview. You have an A cam set up and a B cam set up. Your A camera could be this 28-45, say at like 35mm. And then your B camera, maybe you're at like a 50mm prime or a 65mm prime, right? But usually you are, at somewhere between like an f2 and an f2.8. The problem with, normal zoom lenses like a 24-70 f2.8 is if you do need that f2 depth of field, you can't get it, right? Unless you have some kind of speed booster kind of setup. But that's why the 28-45 is great, because you can also match your faster prime lenses for A cam and B cam uses. I would say the only con about the 28-45 is I don't know if I can get this on camera that great. The custom buttons, right? These guys here. There are 2 custom buttons, which is great. But the thing is, like, they're what is that, convex or convex, right? They're different than like the Sony G Master ones, which kind of indent inwards, so it's easier to hold. Whereas these ones, pop out sort of like a button on a game controller. So it takes extra, not a lot, but it takes extra force to keep the actual button held down. So I typically use autofocus or manual focus hold for those custom buttons. For instances where you're shooting something very verite, things are happening on the fly, and you're pulling your own focus, and autofocus isn't grabbing what you needed to grab, so you're holding that custom button down. It's easier on the Sony G Master lenses than it is with the Sigma lenses. Maybe it's something I just have to get used to. But again, comparing it to like the Sony G Master lenses, I would say that's the only con of these newer Sigma art lenses. Price for the 20 to 45 is how much is this lens? I don't know. As of this recording, I mean, B&H has it for 28, has it for 12.59. I think it's just like a deal they're having. It's not a deal zone thing. It's just, I don't know why. But then if you go to Adorama, it's 14.89. So I bought mine actually on Amazon for 11.69 or something like that. There's actually, you'd be surprised if you go on Amazon, you actually might find brand new lenses, right? Like the 20 to 45 at anywhere between $200 and $300 less than say B&H or Adorama or other online retailers, right? So definitely always check Amazon because you never know. And again, like this lens I bought from some third-party photography store on Amazon, and brand new, wasn't renewed or open box, brand new item. And so, always check Amazon when you can. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. Please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel as always, just so you are notified of new content coming out. And remember that every day you have an opportunity to create your experience and to write and tell your own story. My name is David Lee, and I will catch you guys in the next video.